Welcome to the Dome Discussions Podcast.
Right.
Your top source for all things New Orleans Saints. Powered by four voices who live and breathe black and gold.
Touchdown.
Every hit. Every play.
Welcome to the NFL.
Every moment. We've got it covered.
Let's go. Let's go.
What's going on, Who Dat Nation? Appreciate everybody tuning into the Dome Discussions Podcast, part of the Be in the Know Network. I'm Kyle Besson with Canal Street Chronicles.
I'm Nick Jennings with Canal Street Chronicles.
I'm Caleb Yacarino with Canal Street Chronicles.
I'm Drew Collings with Who Dat Dish.
And we just got our first taste of Saints football in, 8 months or so. The Saints lost to the Los Angeles Chargers 27-13 to start the preseason. It wasn't much of a back-and-forth game. The Chargers kind of held control of it the whole way through. But we got to see a lot of exciting stuff from both Spencer Rattler, Tyler Shough, Jake Haener. We got to see all quarterbacks in play, kind of get to break that down. Upsettingly, actually, let me hold that off to the end. So to go into it, let's kind of talk about the quarterbacks because that's kind of the big thing going into the game. Is there anything that you guys noticed with either quarterback that's kind of good for them, bad for them, or kind of an idea of who you actually have leading the battle now?
Yeah, this actually made the quarterback battle a lot more interesting. Clearly, we thought Spencer Rattler had a firm grasp on the quarterback battle heading into this game. Rattler only had 11 pass attempts, though. There wasn't much of a sample size of what he was able to do, though he did look so much more comfortable in the pocket. He looked so much more lethal on his legs. That was good to see because you've seen him working on it all off season long. He looks like I said, he's looked good from a decisiveness standpoint. There were a couple of throws that got away from him, but I'd really want to turn the focus to Tyler Shough. Obviously, this is his first career game. Shough's first career drive being a 2-minute drill and still leading to points was definitely encouraging. He looked decisive, but like Kyle said in the group chat, maybe a bit too decisive later on. That pick six just was very ugly. It's just not what you want to see out of your rookie quarterback. But Kellen Moore stressed the importance of the quarterbacks being able to redeem themselves from adversity and fight through it. And that's exactly what Tyler Shough did, responding with a 54-yard bomb of a touchdown to Mason Tipton. I thought there were a lot of good signs from Tyler Shough and a lot of bad signs. One of the more negative things is what we've said all throughout training camp, being able to handle pressure. There were a couple sacks that were on him that you just can't be taking, put the offense in a really tough position. But when it comes to Jake Haener, I think we're done with that conversation as well. First drive, end of the game, throws an interception. It's between Tyler Shough and Spencer Rattler at this point, and it just got a whole lot more interesting. I expect Tyler Shough to get the start next week. So if he can come out strong in that game, then I have no idea who's going to be the starter at this point.
And I want to add something to one of the points you brought up, and you could go ahead, Caleb, right after this. I want to make it quick because I thought it was also very notable to see that right after throwing the interception for Tyler Shough, Kellen Moore actually called a pass play right after in the next drive to start the drive. Something notable that you give your guy your chance to make up for it right after, because the touchdown pass he also made was a double move by Mason Tipton, which notably was another play that Tyler Shough missed earlier on his first drive when he missed a double move to Calvin Austin. So again, just notable that Kellen Moore actually gave Shough his chance to bounce back from two mistakes that he made early on in the game and to make those plays.
Yeah, in the post-game press conference, Kellen Moore actually talked about that, where they were really using checkdowns a lot, but they knew that the cornerbacks were going to play very heavy coverage on them, so the double moves would work. And that Tipton move was perfect. I mean, that was an amazing throw and an amazing pass, or amazing catch. But going with the quarterback conversation and going off of what you were saying, one of the main things that Kellen Moore has talked about really this whole offseason is, I don't really care about the mistakes that are made, I care about how you bounce back. And Tyler Shough threw an amazing pass to Mason Tipton for a massive touchdown a few plays after throwing a terrible interception. That's everything Kellen Moore wants to see. Earlier in the game, Spencer Rattler fumbled the ball. Was it his fault? Was it not? Was it not? Not. I say not really. I think it was Dylan Radins who was right tackle for that play. But I didn't really see anything bounce back. I really didn't see Rattler do anything to push himself after that. That was one of the things that I was very disappointed, because if You remember last week I talked about how I thought this was going to be the Spencer Rattler game, and I thought Tyler Shough was going to struggle a lot. Instead, Spencer Rattler threw 11 passes, while Tyler Shough threw 22. And Tyler Shough had the higher highs but the lower lows. And it's one of those things where last offseason, we got so enamored because of Spencer Rattler being more consistent. That consistency stayed, but we still really haven't seen the highs. We're not seeing that kind of risk taking you want to see from a starting quarterback that's calculated that we've seen from Rattler in practice. It felt very passive at times. And could that have been the coaching? Maybe. But from what Kellen Moore has been saying all offseason, I don't know if it is. I'm coming away from this kind of like what Nick said. It is a close battle. I do think also that Tyler Shough is going to be starting next game. Why not throw him out there? Throw him with some of the starters. See what he could do. Throw him against a possible starting defense with the Jaguars. But yeah, it's a lot closer battle now.
During our last podcast, I was clear on how I thought it was going to be a really rough and kind of a shaky game for Tyler Shough. He's a rookie, first start. I wasn't expecting it to be good. The one thing I said that I wanted to see was how he bounced back, because he's going to have these plays like he did today where he threw the interception, pick six, not a good play. But I absolutely loved how he responded to that next drive. Beautiful 54-yard touchdown pass. That is exactly what I want to see from a rookie quarterback. I couldn't care less if he had a couple throws that weren't ideal, that weren't right in the hands. You're not going to get perfection in a preseason game with a rookie quarterback. No one should expect that. But I think as a Saints fans, you should be really excited about what you saw from Tyler Shough today. Still got to improve a lot, but I think this is a solid starting point, and he 100% closing the gap between him and Spencer Rattler.
I actually did want to bring a point real quick. So during the game, in the 2-minute drive before first half ended, everyone thought Spencer Rattler was going to be put back out there because why would Tyler Shough be put in? Well, Kellen Moore decided that was the point that Tyler Shough was going to have his first NFL experience, was in a 2-minute drive to end the half, which was surprising to everyone. And many people were shocked and a little put off by that move. I took a step back, looked at it like, okay, the defense is going to play off. They are not going to play strong defense because they're not going to want you to get in the red zone and score a touchdown. This is actually the best opportunity for Tyler Shough to kind of get warmed up because there's going to be short passes open. So if you want your young quarterback to kind of get warmed up, it was this. Now, I will say, I actually think that hurt him on his interception in the third quarter because everything was so predetermined for him and everything was so short passes, check it down, easy passes, quick passes without having to look at other receivers, that in that interception, he saw the player, threw it, it was predetermined, and he shouldn't have thrown that. So I actually think it helped him to warm him up, but it actually hurt him in the end also.
Yeah, and because one of the things with coming in the 2-minute offense was that is a scripted offense. That's an offense that they go over, I don't know, every Thursday or so, right? So he kind of knew his plays, like you're saying, beforehand, and that's also why we noted that he probably missed Trayton Welch on a big gain on that interception because it looked like he predetermined where he wanted to go with the ball beforehand.
Yeah, and that's actually a good point that you mentioned that the Saints do go over those 2-minute drills on Thursdays. Last Thursday, when the Saints had one of their best practices all offseason, him and Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shough, were going back and forth with 2-minute drill touchdowns. So it's really encouraging to see how Tyler Shough handled his first ever 2-minute drill. If you take out a spike and a throwaway, he went 5 for 6 for 42 yards and a field goal. The Saints ended the drive with a field goal. So you'll take that any day of the week for your first NFL drive. And then going back to the interception, I think that's kind of where Shough learned not to telegraph as much. It was clear that he was staring his receivers down early on, and I think he's definitely finding out how different the game is to a college level. This is all stuff that you want to see now and not in the regular season, so I don't think any of it was worth overreacting.
Yeah, and it's not like we're talking very highly about Shough, but we should also note that Spencer Rattler didn't have a bad game. This was nowhere near a bad game. Yes, the fumble happened. It was a little bit passive, but he was making great throws. He was making confident throws. He looked confident in the pocket. When the second string offensive lineman came in, it kind of got crazy, which in his young career has dealt with that and it hasn't been a great situation, but he's looked very confident and he wasn't staring down receivers. He was going through every single progression, trying to find players, and he also ran really well. So there was a lot of positives from Spencer Rattler. I just don't think it was the game that we all wanted from him to secure this job. It just wasn't that like extra step from last year, in my opinion, at least.
And I think
Didn't everyone say that they thought Rattler was going to go out and get a touchdown drive first? I think all four of us said that we were expecting that. So yeah, he had a great game, but just not what we expected.
And I think what leaves the sour taste in our mouth with Rattler, if you think, is he didn't lead any points. There was no points off of a Rattler drive there. And I don't know the exact timing or possession wise, but it seemed like Rattler got almost a whole half, right? A quarter, and then the last 2 minutes, before the last 2 minutes of the second quarter. And then kind of felt like Shough kind of got that same amount of time. The only difference is Shough led us to 10 points and the opposing team 7. But Shough got us to 10 points, and Rattler wasn't able to put any points on the board. And that's including being great field position quite a few times and within 10 or 20 of the opposing team off of muffs. So it's a little rough that Rattler wasn't able to put any points on the board. I don't know if it's the vanilla offense that they're running that's affecting this or what it is. But I would have liked to see some points from Rattler. It didn't have to be from the first drive of the game, but we did see Shough lead them to a field goal and a touchdown.
And there definitely was a lot of vanilla offense going around as well. Early in the game, I think the Saints ran the ball on like second and long. They clearly aren't going to show what they've got up their sleeve to this point. And it just so happened to be that Spencer Rattler was at quarterback when they decided to run the offense in that way. So that just doesn't benefit him, but you also can't put that on him. He handled the pressure way better than he did last season. And that's all you can ask from him in that situation.
Yeah, and I think we saw good performances out of all of these guys. It was something to watch, and just honestly, I'm excited Saints football's back and we can watch it. But continuing on good performances, it's not just the quarterbacks that played preseason, right? There's 10 other guys on offense, 11 other guys on the defense, and about 70 other guys that played in this game. So what are some other good performances that you guys saw that's not quarterback related?
Yeah, Isaiah Stallbird is a guy that really stood out to me. He was just flying all over the field like a missile. Him and Danny Stutzman. Danny Stutzman actually had the green dot on his helmet for his first ever preseason game, meaning he had communication with the coaches in his ear. That alone just shows the impact that he's had on his coaching staff and teammates since arriving in New Orleans. But Isaiah Stallbird had that 6-yard tackle for loss. Looked like he just got shot out of a cannon. Like Drew said before, former safety, so he's got that speed to him. He really impressed. He's a good blitzer, and he impressed in coverage as well. That's a guy that really stood out to me, especially because we were expecting guys like Nephi Sewell to be the one that stands out in that room, and we didn't hear much about him at all. There were DeMarco Jackson, another guy that had a great game, had a PBU and a pressure that was almost a sack. Those guys are making the most out of their opportunity. I feel really good about the depth in the linebacker room right now.
Yeah, and sticking with the defense, I actually want to talk about the defensive line with Fadil Diggs, who was the most talked player in the game, possibly. Felt like every single play he made a massive difference in the game. It felt like every time his effort was shown, I mean, he was just everywhere. And again, staying on the defensive line, another person that might not have been talked about enough, but made big plays with Brian Brzee. On run defense, he was getting in the backfield, which is something amazing to see. I've been talking about it for so long. I saw improvement in the run game. He was dominant in the pass game. In pass rush, obviously, you're going to have that. And speaking of, I literally forget his name.
Chris Rumpf.
Defensive tackle. No. Chris Rumpf also had an amazing game.
Boyd?
Christian Boyd. There you go. Christian Boyd should have had a safety. Christian Boyd was drafted to be a run stopper. And that man destroyed the offensive lineman and just ran to the quarterback and probably should have gotten the safety, and it should have been the first 2 points of the season. But it was an amazing play. I mean, the defensive line, the people that I wanted to see do well didn't do well, except Brian Brzee, and then the people that I didn't expect to go lights out did amazing. So that was good and bad to see, but it was better than nothing.
Yeah, no,
Another player I think is worth bringing up is Isaac Yiadom. Like he had a really good day. We were talking about how he kind of disappointed in training camp a little bit. Saints brought him back and we didn't see that much. But I felt like he had a really strong day. He had one great pass breakup. A little off topic, but Jonas Sanker, he had like one play I saw of him, but that pass breakup was beautiful.
That was with Vernon Broughton. It was because said it was the 2025 play because Vernon Broughton broke away and was pressuring the quarterback, and then Jonas Sanker just completely hit the ball out of the wide receiver's hands. It was like the perfect. Okay, these are two players we could feel good about. Which Vernon Broughton is also someone we've been talking about a lot. He really didn't do crazy things during the game, but stuff like that. That's all I want as a rookie.
yeah, I'd actually before I get to who I really watched and was happy to see perform, I do kind of want to talk about Fadil Diggs because that's a guy that I know you guys know I'm very high on. I've been high on him all through the draft process. I was surprised he even made it to the seventh round. Nonetheless, bottom 5 pick in the 7th round or so. This guy's got crazy versatility. He's athletic and he fits in the offense almost anywhere where you want to put him on the line. In the sense of he could be that linebacker, 3-4 linebacker, or go on the edge wherever you want him. And we heard his name a lot. I believe he ended with 1 sack, and I could probably pull the stats up. It was about 3 tackles, 1 sack, and I'm sure one of those tackles was a tackle for loss. He made his presence known in the game, and it was beautiful to see. I appreciate seeing a 7th rounder come out there, make some plays, and hopefully he's a guy that the Saints can find a roster spot for and make those plays for him, in the season. Now, with that being said, the guy that I actually took notes on, kind of watched throughout the game, because something that we need, because we kind of make the joke that Chris Olave goes down, and now who do you have? Kevin Austin had a pretty good game, and if Tyler Shough would have connected on that pass in a 2-minute drill, Kevin Austin could have had a touchdown, a big touchdown. He ended 4 catches, 42 yards, I believe. He was there for both Hayner and Rattler. Rattler and Shough. He's 6'2", can't give you the exact weight size, but he's a big guy. He can catch over the middle, and he has surprising speed that you're not always going to be expecting from him. So again, a guy that made his presence known, was the biggest threat as a receiver for the Saints today, and could possibly earn himself some real regular season time just based on, again, the Saints don't really have too much of a guy, and Bub Means did happen to go down.
Yeah, and that's actually a great point. You know how high I've been on Kevin Austin Jr. all off season long. Got that 4.37 sneaky speed. He is just, like I said, always seems to be in the right spot. He's a slant. I don't want to say slant man because that's like PTSD for us, but he is. He's so reliable with that slant route. I believe Tyler Shough first 3 passes were to Kevin Austin Jr. and 3 of his first 4 passes were slant routes. So it's good to have that back. We mentioned him possibly being that big body over the middle receiver for the Saints at 6'2". I really think he has a good shot at making this roster, especially with Bub Means going down. That was just very unfortunate to see. He had a towel over his head, his shoe off. It didn't look good. So there might be a spot open now for Kevin Austin Jr. And Cedric Wilson also had a couple good plays. He's another guy I've been very high on. Those 2 guys, I feel like aren't talked about enough as to the impact that they could have on this wide receiver room given their roles.
Yeah,
There are 2
another
more
wide
guys I want to
receiver.
go over. Or you go.
Yeah, it's real quick. Another wide receiver that I know we already talked about, but I got to talk about it again because he's my guy, Mason Tipton, with the big play. You have to be able to sell that you're going to make a cut and it's going to be a short pass. You have to sell that. He sold it beautifully and flew. I mean, it was our main thing was, okay, you're doing this in practice. You're performing in practice. You're this reliable guy. You got to show it in game. We need to see it in game. It needs to happen. This was it. He didn't have a large workload this game. He really wasn't targeted. That I don't know his targets for this game, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't that much. But that big play is anything you want from a depth wide receiver. He doesn't need to be this high volume guy. You make plays like that, and that could translate into a regular season. That's amazing.
I want to highlight 2 more guys who won't show up on the stat sheet of having an amazing day, but I think they really did well. First is Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He may not have been rushing well, but his pass blocking was absolutely perfect. On that 54-yard touchdown pass, that wouldn't have happened without him. I love to see that. That's what gets you a roster spot. That's what makes you stand out from the crowd, and he did that perfectly. Another guy, Torricelli Simpkins. He came in early. Kellen Moore was highlighting him in the press conference, but he played really well. Undrafted free agent out of South Carolina, I believe. They might have had some work with Spencer Rattler in college, but he played really well too.
Yeah,
And I think it would be wrong of us to not mention Kendre Miller here. I mean, he looked outstanding. He looked explosive. He was fighting for extra yards. He looked like he was running with a purpose. It was really good to see him getting that heavy workload early on. If he can stay healthy, like I am so excited to see what he can do by Alvin Kamara. It just seems like every time he's getting tackled, he's like falling forward for extra yards. That is a great trait to have as a running back.
Yeah, and we could talk about these guys because there's obviously a lot of guys that we watched out that like really impressed. I mean, another one that we didn't name, Jalen Ford, had a pretty good game as well. And Kendre Miller, his stats actually didn't pop out. If you go check the stat line, I was surprised when I saw it. I think he averaged 2.5 yards a carry or something. It's not something that you could look at the stat line. You got to watch the game and see that Kendre Miller really did make an impact with what he was given. But with that being said, of all the players that really stood out and showed us positives, there's always the opposite end of that spectrum. Not everybody performed to the expectations that we thought, or just things went wrong in the game, and what we got to note. So again, what's something that maybe didn't pop out or popped out but in a bad way for you guys?
If I can start this one, because I have to, because I think he was the player I was watching going into this game, one of the players. Isaiah Foskey, his spot on this roster is no longer there, in my opinion. And that's tough to say because I had high hopes in this defense. And I'll say this, Brandon Staley, 3-4 defense all the way. One of the things I was looking at, that is 3-4 defense pure. He was putting, it was beautiful to watch. That was the main thing. Isaiah Foskey played that outside linebacker role. It's exactly what we thought he was going to be put into. And it wasn't good. On run plays, he was beat. He didn't set the edge well. On pass plays, he couldn't get any pass rush. I think he did hit the running back once in the backfield for a loss, but he didn't finish the tackle, and he got a little bit of pressure, but it wasn't anything that popped out. He might have played the most snaps on the roster this game. I don't know if that's true, but I'm pretty sure he played most of the game, and there wasn't much from it. If there was one player that I had to choose that their stock was just plummeted from this game, it is 100% Isaiah Foskey.
Also,
Yeah, he
another
did.
player whose stock plummeted was Jake Haener. I mean, that's kind of an obvious one, but man, that interception was not good. Good job at improvising then right to the defender. This is a two-man quarterback race now, and he's sadly dropping out.
Yeah, look, going back to Isaiah Foskey for a second, it's just so disappointing. And another guy I would have liked to see play who actually didn't end up suiting up was Jasheen Davis. I'm not too sure why he didn't suit up, but yeah, Foskey played the entire game, every snap, didn't do a thing. The position group that I actually thought stood out that was not good was the interior of the offensive line. It was horrid. Trevor Penning picked up a holding call early, was not doing too great. Cesar Ruiz didn't look great either. Caleb said it before. He thinks that Eric McCoy has a lot to do with Cesar Ruiz's, what's the word I'm looking for? Production, I guess you could call it from an offensive line standpoint. Yeah, success. Eric McCoy did not suit up. The Saints are managing his workload this offseason, so they didn't even take that risk. But Dylan Radins, who we were very high on, I know he played tackle in college, so it wasn't out of the ordinary for the Saints to put him at tackle, but he was just awful. I mean, he had multiple penalties. He had multiple sacks given up. The one that led to Spencer Rattler's fumble, the illegal formation, which you shouldn't be doing as a veteran in the NFL. It was just very, very bad. And look, we were very high on him potentially being the starter if Trevor Penning had not been moved. Now I'm not too sure about that. He got time at the left tackle and at right tackle, and it just wasn't good. And look, the interior of the offensive line, we don't have much depth there, so that is definitely a worry of mine heading into the season.
Yeah, and I'd like to go kind of on to the opposite there because the Saints couldn't stop the run today. That's kind of not opposing you on the opposite side of the ball. The Saints couldn't stop the run.
Yeah.
I've got the numbers here. The Chargers ran for 148 yards on 34 attempts, averaging 4.4 yards a carry. Trey Lance, I mean, that's an obvious one that you can think. The Saints couldn't stop a quarterback from running. The running backs for bouncing out and being able to find 15 yards when they should have been stopped down behind the line for negative 2 yards. It's a problem. It's been a problem with the Saints when they were running a 4-3, and we were like, okay, they're going to switch to a 3-4, and we know know it's a little harder to stop the run on the 3-4, but they're going to add the personnel to do it. Danny Stutzman, Jonas Sanker, just some names Vernon Broughton, and some guys that you brought in because specifically to stop the run. But they still couldn't stop the run. I think Trey Lance is probably one that highlight that really showed off the wheels against the Saints. They couldn't get the finish, couldn't take him down, and he took advantage of that. So stopping the run, obviously it's just one small sample size, one game. You don't know how bad of a problem it's going to be, but it was rough seeing the Chargers put up almost 150 yards on the ground.
And I think that was mainly about from the backup defensive linemen, because a lot of them, like Vernon Broughton, wasn't really doing much against the run. The young defensive tackles weren't making that impact we kind of want to. And again, it really felt like when a offensive coordinator knows that a cornerback, it's their first game and they just throw at them constantly and they know that they won't cover their all pro wide receiver. It feels like every time Chargers ran to the left because Isaiah Foskey was there, they just abused it. It was just every time he could jump out or go the other way. And it's just easy yards. And same thing, Trey Lance, ran that way like 4 times. So stopping the quarterback might still be an issue, but I also think that just goes down to if the starters were in, the linebacker core still did well against the run when they could make that impact. Because I always say, look, the run defense isn't just the defensive line. The linebackers also have to be there. The Saints' run defense last year fell off when the starting group linebacker wasn't in. So it could be the backups, but yeah, it was definitely something that fell off very quickly in the end. And it's like, okay, the Saints might not have the depth we thought they had against the run.
Yeah,
And going back to the offensive line real quick, the interior of the offensive line, I also forgot to mention Will Clapp also went down with an injury. Second time in the coming week. He was down earlier in training camp this week, left, came back the next day, or I believe the same day, a couple plays later, was carted off today. Just not what you want to see with such a thin group. The Saints just went out and got Shane Lemieux. They have Landon Young still. They have a couple guys still there, but you're running out of guys with Nick Soutaveri no longer able to play, being on IR. Will Clapp going down with an injury. Trevor Penning going down with an injury. He also was carted off. Had both shoes off. He was able to walk a little bit, but just having both shoes off and having to be carted off the field is not what you want to see from your potential starting left guard.
yeah,
And also,
This is off topic.
the tight end room was another thing that it was kind of like Jack Stoll dropped a pass that definitely should have been caught. Like one of the positives that we didn't talk about with Spencer Rattler is one of the issues with Spencer Rattler, he kind of threw wide receivers into big hits, very hospital balls, very dangerous throws. He was throwing away from those hits, and it was actually really good for those wide receivers. They didn't end up into reception. A lot of them were the wide receiver's fault. But Jack Stoll was dropping passes. They weren't really making impact. He did have a good block on the edge in the red zone when the Chargers fumbled the ball the first time. He had a great block. It didn't go anywhere because there was 2 players he was trying to block. So the blocking ability is there, but he might not have that pass catching ability that we thought he had. And that might be bad for the depth, because if Juwan Johnson goes down with injury, it's bleak there now.
Well, yeah,
I
I'm
get what
actually
you said about
surprised
Jack Stoll.
we didn't see Mike Jacobson a lot. He was very prominent in the passing game, in the receiving game throughout training camp. And we saw a lot more Trayton Welch than I expected that we would. So that's definitely interesting.
And Jack Stoll, 100%. That's what I was kind of noticing too. Like, I get that's not his game, but you at least want to be able to see some production, see him be able to impact the game a little bit there.
Yeah, and as you guys were saying about the injuries, because Mason Pline also went down with an injury, and he looked like he was really in some pain as well. Was able to walk off on his own, kind of had been assisted to the locker room, didn't need the cart. But another guy that went down with injuries, and injuries was kind of a bit of a story for the game as well. From what I can name, it was Bub Means, Will Clapp, Mason Pline, Trevor Penning, and I'm sure I'm missing somebody there. But that's at least just four injuries. And at the time, I saw the tweet, at the time, the Saints had 4 injuries and 3 points on the board. Again, something you don't want to see early on in a preseason. And we know how Kellen Moore has approached the offseason about trying to keep his guys healthy. Obviously, you're never going to be able to stop injuries from happening. And they did a pretty decent job for the most part at the beginning of training camp. But it kind of over the past week or so, and then now into the preseason week 1, it seems like that's kind of not working as well as we hoped.
And another guy who got shaken up a little bit is Tyler Shough. Had a lineman fall on his leg, was seen shaking his right leg on the sidelines. You could see that hit really affected him. After the game, said it was just a bruise. He's not concerned about it, but it's definitely something to monitor.
All right. Actually,
Yeah, and just another player that kind of was disappointing, but didn't have a bad game. Was actually Rico Payton on defense. I'll say on
Yeah.
special teams, it's Rico Payton. He's going to be amazing. Like he would have destroyed the kick returner when they didn't fumble the ball the first time, but it was a fair catch. In pass defense, he was kind of getting beat a lot. When he did have a great pass play in the red zone or in the end zone, he kind of got there early. It probably should have been a penalty. When he was trying to tackle players, he got absolutely juked out of his shoes one time. So it was not that tackling ability. Maybe we want to say, and he made up for it. I'm not saying that he didn't make up for it, but it was just maybe not that kind of step forward we wanted him to see or take. But again, special teams. If he's just going to be a special teams guy, then that's perfectly fine. JT Gray didn't have a lot of snaps on defense, so he's going to be a special teams guy. Look, the special teams was great. If there was one consistency this whole game, special teams were great. So that's a win.
I actually want to add on to your Rico Payton because one of the worst things that Rico Payton did this game was he had a face mask penalty that kept one of the Chargers' drives alive. I believe it was 4th and 15 for the Chargers, as they were, or 3rd and 15, and it was incomplete. And well, behold, Rico Payton had a face mask call that kept the drive alive, and that drive eventually would end in, I believe, a Trey Lance rushing touchdown. So that's something that you can't have happen in a game.
Yeah, and actually on that play too, Chris Rumpf definitely got the sack. Like Trey Lance's knee was down, and they probably would have gone and replayed that if the face mask didn't happen, because the face mask happened before that. It would have been a sack, and the drive would have been destroyed. But now with that face mask, it was now first down, and we know the history.
And I wouldn't say this is necessarily a negative or a bad thing, but it was definitely shocking to see the limited reps, if any, that Quincy Riley got. I don't think I heard his name once today. He suited up. I expected him to have a really strong game. He's had a really strong camp. I'm wondering what's going on there. Maybe he's dealing with something behind the scenes that we're not aware of, but just by running with the one so much in camp, you would have expected him to play, especially if he was already suited up for that game. And Kool-Aid McKinstry didn't see it as much time after the first quarter, so it was interesting to see.
And I thought about it with Rico Payton again, real quick, to play devil's advocate. He has been sick the past couple practices and has been missing practice. It was not even known if he was going to play the game, because I'm fairly certain he wasn't suited up to play near the beginning of the game. So it was kind of surprised that he even played. That could also be why he didn't play as well. So devil's advocate, that might be why also.
Yeah, and for Quincy,
Yeah, he didn't even run.
I wouldn't say for Quincy Riley. He did. I can't remember too many snaps that he did, but he was the one that allowed the 2-point conversion. That is one snap that I remember him taking. He was the one that it was on him there. I'm also a little curious. I'm curious on why he wasn't in more. It's a younger guy, and this is being recorded, I would say, an hour and a half after the game. So if we haven't had the chance to go back and rewatch things, so if there's things we missed, and actually Quincy Riley was in for a full 3 quarters, and maybe we just didn't miss, we haven't had the chance to go back in and really look over all these things. But he is a guy that I also probably wanted to see a little bit more of, and I can remember him maybe allowing 1 reception and then also that 2-point conversion.
Yeah, and Kellen Moore's play calling in the red zone also, when it was the first red zone drive where they didn't score a touchdown and went for it on 4th, not good. Throw out a lot of those plays. They did a touch pass, I'm pretty sure, to Velus Jones. He had a good game.
Yeah.
He had a very good game. He made a lot of plays when it shouldn't have been plays to be made. He got stopped in the backfield on 4th and 2, I think, to get the touchdown. It was like a shotgun run to Kendre Miller that should be thrown out of the play calls. Never do that again. It didn't work. So yeah, the play calling there was a little bit weird. That could be the vanilla thing, obviously, but that's definitely something to think about going into the season.
I'm not even gonna lie to you. I lost complete track of thought. My Discord just completely collapsed.
Yeah, I can go then.
Yeah, okay.
If we're ready.
Yep.
Yes, yeah. So we know Velus Jones Jr. had a good offensive game, according to ESPN, he also had more tackles than Isaiah Foskey. So, I mean, Travis Hunter, he's got that.
Yeah, he was a guy that
Oh,
I was
God.
gonna say I was gonna make a point to talk about him because I honestly completely forgot about him. We went into talking about what we saw that we didn't like. I was definitely gonna bring him up before we ended this because he was a guy, like you guys said, made plays out of nothing. He really contributed a lot more than I would have thought. And again, we go over that running back room. There's 8 running backs on the roster. How are you gonna break it down to 4 guys, 3 guys? And he's someone who made it a little bit harder to cut him.
Yeah, and I actually did remember what I was going to say. Going back to the vanilla offense, it could be the vanilla offense, or it could just be Kellen Moore getting used to his personnel. Last year with the Eagles, it took him quite a while to get going. I would say week 3 against the Saints is when things started to click. It went through a whole preseason. It went through the first 2 games of the season. There was turnover issues. There was usage issues. Players were unhappy with their roles, and then everyone bought in, and they went on and went to win a Super Bowl with one of the most dominant offenses in the league. So I would just give it some time. Like I said, there's not much to overreact about this game anyways, so we'll see how the offense looks next week.
Yeah, but with that being said, I think that's going to conclude, unless anyone else has anything else that they want to say. But I think that's going to conclude this episode. We're planning to maybe not have shorter episodes where this one is a little bit shorter. It's just this being a 3 p.m. game kind of throws a lot off. We're recording, it's 8:30, and we all got stuff that we got to get done. But I'll be concluding this one at least. No matter what, good game. The Saints are starting a preseason 0-1. I'm excited for them to host Travis Hunter and the Jaguars next weekend. That's going to be a fun game to even talk over, which we will talk over that Friday. So make sure you guys tune into that one. But with that being said, peace out.